Painting, to me, is an idea being able to be transformed to reality. I love the idea that an artist such as me is able to just to take a liquid form, just a color, in a tube or a color in a cup, and able to make it into something that has some level of purpose, maybe. I don't know. I walk into a room sometimes and it's just a blank wall, right? And I think to myself, what could give this space some life? And I think artists are able to be vehicles in giving some space life. And not necessarily my art, but any art. Again, my art is not for everybody, but I think there always is some art for somebody. The world is abundant in that aspect, especially for an artist, gives them a release of whatever they have inside them that they must paint. I would paint whether I'm getting paid for it or not. I would paint whether I'm in an art show or not, or my art's in a gallery or not. When I was a little kid doodling, in my notebooks in school, it wasn't for anybody but for the release that of something that's inside of me, the creative juices that are inside of me, and more than anything, that's what I possess today. I paint to release creativity. I create to release emotion. I create and I paint to release passion. I create to release joy and happiness and character and energy. I love the idea of painting outside the lines. I paint to not be perfect. I paint to show myself and to show sometimes other people that it's okay to not be perfect, to paint outside the lines, to be free with what you're doing, and that is something that motivates me, and that has a lot of times motivated other people. My name is Scott Jeffries. I was born in New York City. I was raised in Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia, and now I live and work in South Florida. After college, I went to law school. I was a lawyer practicing law for a long time, but I always was, painting and sketching and doodling. And over the years, I was living in Philadelphia at the time, and I found myself I was in my 30s, living in a part of Philadelphia called the Art Museum, where, a lot of creative people live there. I was near the Art Museum, a lot of young people trying to make it in the world. And I found myself with a place to live that gave me the freedom to paint a lot. My house at the time was covered with my paintings, covered with my sculptures. I did a lot of paper mache and was transitioning from a lawyer full time to someone that was obsessed with the idea of becoming an artist. Ultimately, in about 2006 or 7, I moved to Florida. And I just didn't do anything. I stopped being a lawyer. I got sober, which is a long story in itself. But I was able to sort of kind of change the trajectory of my life, where I wasn't practicing law anymore. So I was able to kind of transition into a new mindset where art was a possibility. I'm the most proud of the idea that being an artist is a possibility, has always been a possibility. I'm most proud of the idea that I'm able to support myself as an artist. I'm proud of the notion that people like my art and that I like my art. I like when people walk into my studio and they just say, wow. I'm just proud of the fact that I'm able to just to be. I didn't settle for mediocrity. I haven't settled for the idea that I need to sit and be a lawyer for the rest of my life. While that was great, my passion was in, playing with paints and colors and crayons and markers and and that sort of thing. So I'm proud of the fact that I'm able to live my life and be useful at it at the same time. When I was practicing law, I was an artist. When I was a high school student, I was an artist. When I was in elementary school, I was an artist. I've always been an artist. So, if there was a choice to be made, I would always choose being an artist. When I talk to my fellow artists that are doing the same thing as I'm trying to do, this is it. This is the life that we have to have. There is no choice. It's funny, people always ask me, how long did this painting take? How long did this sculpture take? And the answer is always the same, 57 years. I'm 57 years old, right? These paintings, these sculptures have come about my whole entire life. Technically, a painting sometimes takes me 2 months. Sometimes it takes me a month. The painting behind me, this distortion, this big 32-foot long painting, is 8 different panels of separate paintings. Each panel alone is its own distinct entity and distinct view on what it's called distortion. And what distortion is all about is how I see something that may or may not be there. Do I see a person? Do I see a face? Do I see a mountain? Do I see just squares, just colors, just objects? It's all about how we view things and how we feel things. And so the short answer is, how long did it take? 57 years, without a doubt. My whole life, I've been coming. I've lived my whole entire life for this moment. And I think that's what it's important for everyone to when they walk into a room, they spent their whole entire walk into a room, an office, a classroom, a situation, a marriage, a divorce, a funeral. I live my whole life for today. I live in the present moment. And when I walk into an art gallery, I want people to live in the present moment, to put their phone down, to stop scrolling, to meditate on what's in front of them. We're all giving ourselves ADHD, right? And I want to be able to slow down and just be for just a moment.